ForsanPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, our daily look at an area football team and the key questions we're going to be answering about that team in our August 21st preseason preview here at Big Country Preps. I'm Evan Wren. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. Dan Youngblood, my partner, is with me live via Zoom from Angel Fire, New Mexico. Beautiful scenery up there, Dan. Welcome to the show. We're both enjoying our vacations, but we're still going to be doing these podcasts as we go through our vacations. We've got the Forsan Buffaloes to talk about today, Dan.
Yeah, and Forsan has really become one of the most consistent programs in our coverage area. You can pretty much bank every year they're going to be very competitive, very physical, and this year should be no different. You look at the group they've got back 19 returning lettermen, among those 8 offensive and 5 defensive starters. So it should be another fun season for Forsan. Obviously, they're going to have some questions like any team does if they hope to achieve the goals they've set for themselves, and we'll discuss a few of those here in a little bit, but. From my vantage point, looks like Coach Jason Phillips is in for another successful one.
Before we get going on today's podcast, we want to remind you YouTubers to hit the subscribe button. And then also after that, hit the little bell, and then you'll receive notifications every time that Big Country Preps comes up with a new video. And here's a quick thank you to a couple of our sponsors, beginning with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shout at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge.
And with that, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's talk about these Forsan Buffaloes and talk about some of the questions that will be facing them this season. One of the big ones, I think this is a fun one to ask, is with 8 returning starters on that offensive side of the football. How good can this Tigers team be on that side of the ball? I think this has the potential to be a very good, very effective Forsan offense. Got some really nice key pieces back, guys who have done a lot for them. When you look at the quarterback position, they've got the Holloway kid. Nicholas Holloway is back as a senior, had a nice season last year, and then some nice skilled guys around him and a good offensive line. So uh, I think this is going to be a good offense. I'm just wondering how good it can be.
I think it's going to be an improved, good Forsan football team. They're going to be solid up front. And don't forget, we'll talk about it in a second. They have that JV team last year that can fill holes with us. They were 7-1 last year, 7-1-1, that JV team. I think up front, they're going to be experienced, and that's the kind of team that I think that Forsan and Jason Phillips will typically do quite well with, because they're a bunch that likes to play in the trenches, and that's where they want to be strong. And when you see Forsan strong up front, we see Forsan being strong virtually everywhere.
Yeah, this is a team that loves physicality. That is its brand. They love playing hard-nosed physical football. When you've got a good, experienced offensive linebacker, that's a good sign for Forsan. The one area where I think maybe the biggest question mark for them, and this is the third question I have, is on that defensive side of the football, where they did lose 6 starters. They are going to have to fill some holes, but like you mentioned, they're filling holes with kids from a very successful JV team. I'm just interested to see if those kids can mature and grow and improve quickly enough for them to be competing at their highest level come district and compete at the top of that district. If this defense can make the strides that it needs to in the non-district schedule to be where it needs to be at district, watch out, because this Forsan team could be very good.
You'll have to forgive Dan. He's up at Angel Fire, New Mexico, as we said earlier, and the reception up there isn't the greatest. So every now and then he may sound a little bit garbled up there in the mountains. It looks like you're just surrounded with pines, man. I'm surrounded with
Yeah,
cactus here in Tucson.
yeah, trees and mountains as far as the eye can see. It's beautiful out here.
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick look at Forsan's schedule for 2024. We'll start with the non-district portion. The traditional battle with Coahoma, their arch rival, will be in Big Spring as always. That's going to be on August the 29th at a neutral site. Then they will go to Post on September the 6th. That's another tough program that Forsan has been playing quite a bit lately. They got Stanton at home on the 13th of September. They're a road date at Wink on September 20th, and those great facilities that you'll see up at Wink. And then they face Ropes on September 27th prior to an open date and then jumping into district.
Yeah, good tough non-district schedule as you'd expect Forsan to have with the success they've had, and that gets them set up for district, which opens after that open date on October 11th at Sonora, which should be a big game for them. They come home to play Colorado City the following week on the 18th of October. They go to Cristoval on the 25th. They go to Ozona on November 1st, and they wrap up their regular season schedule on November 8th with a home game against Reagan County. So a new district for Forsan. Sorry, no, it's not. So a familiar district for Forsan. They've added a couple of
Easy edits. We'll have a picture of all list.
okay, yeah. So a familiar district schedule for Forsan, obviously adding Colorado City this year, but these are teams they've been accustomed to playing and teams they've had success against. It should be a fun district schedule for the Buffaloes.
All right. Game of the year, Mr. Youngblood, for Forsan. Game of the year. Actually, I think there's a couple of them in this. They're going to be challenges, but winnable, potentially winnable games. There's two that I'm looking at. What are you looking at for Forsan?
Yeah, and I think Forsan, I mean, their goal going into most seasons these days is to try to compete for a district championship, and I think that's going to be their goal this year. I think that opener at Sonora is going to be a big one if they hope to do that. If they can win that game, I think you look at the rest of the schedule, and there's not a game left they can't win. So I think the Sonora game is the big one if they hope to compete for that district championship.
That is a very big one if they want to win a district championship of equal importance. I think that road date at Ozona on in week 10 is another big one. If they win or lose against Sonora, win or lose, that Ozona game is going to carry some significance. So those are the two games that I'm looking at as being most important on Forsan's schedule, and they're both on the
And
road.
yeah, and that Ozona one is a contrast in styles. That is a high flying, high scoring Ozona football team that likes to go fast and score a lot of points. Forsan obviously loves to play that physical smash mouth football. That's going to be a fun game and could be a big one, like you said.
All right, with that, it's about time to wrap up this edition of the Countdown to Two-A-Days series, the Forsan Buffaloes. But before we do that, we want to remind you that August 21st is the big day here at Big Country Preps. That's when we release our preseason preview for football in the Big Country. That's the most comprehensive look at Big Country football of any media source out there. We'll have stats, we'll have standings, we'll have features, we'll have team previews, we'll have opinion pieces, we'll have video, you name it, we're going to have it. It's going to be an enormous amount of material. And as Dan will tell you, it's going to expand this year.
Yeah, that enormous material is growing this year as we are expanding our base 40 schools to 45 with the addition of Mineral Wells, Glenrose, Graham, Toller, and Miles. So obviously we're excited to add those 5 schools to the mix. And we hope you enjoy obviously following our coverage of them throughout the season. In the meantime, we appreciate you joining us for this episode of our Countdown to Two-A-Day series, and we hope you come back tomorrow. We will be previewing the Anson Tigers here at BigCountryPreps.com.